basketball tonight. Why don't we have your show? Just download the SportsMap radio app, and you don't have to worry about us getting preempted for anybody. And frankly, there's no reason why you should preempt us, because Andrew Carlson's just giving you away free money in the 3 Plays That Pay segment that you'll hear more of coming up in the third hour of the program. You get to hear Maury Brown from Forbes talk baseball with us in the second hour of the program. Jordan Gianni is going to talk to us from CBS Sports. Jordan has covered the NFL there for a couple of years, and he's going to stop by in about 30 minutes, talk NFL, but the whole weekend of what we saw this week. And it was up and down, a lot of twists, a lot of turns, and once again, it still comes back to Stephen Gostkowski not playing a Hall of Fame kicking spot like he has for the majority of the year, and it cost the Tennessee Titans big time. We'll get into that game in about 10 minutes as well, because there is a ton to get to with the Pittsburgh Steelers and what type of team they can actually be. But I learned a lot more about Tennessee in the game. We'll get into it, and we'll hear from Tomlin as well as Tannehill after that one. But hey, the Jets scored 10 points this weekend. How about that? That was fun. The Buffalo Bills just did not look good. They felt like they were sleepwalking through some of that game. 18-10 in the Meadowlands. It was ugly. It was a snoozer. But ultimately, Buffalo comes back after losing 2 straight for an AFC East that's really theirs just for the absolute taking if they want it. And Miami's punting with Tua starting. It seems like that's just a move for the future. I don't know if he actually gives them something more for this season, and they're just holding out on us for it. But that's a win that they needed to get, and they needed to get back off that schneid. Todd Gurley will not be made a fool of on this program. Andrew Carlson, you like that, or were you in favor of just roasting this man yesterday for falling into the end zone just onto the nick and allowing Matt Stafford to come back for the Detroit Lions in the ATL?
I'm not for roasting him just because of the fact that he had the thought process right. He just couldn't execute it quite in time. Like, if he just ran straight into the end zone and realized after the fact, then I would be all for roasting him. But because he at least made the attempt, I'm going to sit here and laugh a little bit and laugh at his misery and laugh at the misery of the Falcons, but I'm not going to roast him.
I was also I'm not in favor of, completely going against the coaching, right? Not making the smart football play. But hey, Todd Gurley's got a 13 touchdown bonus in his contract. So if he's going to fall in, I know he said he was mad as hell after in the post game, and that was like the way that he just started up his post game presser. But hey, can't fault him for that. Instead, let's give some credit to Matt Stafford. It wasn't like it was a layup to go 80 yards in Atlanta in a minute without any timeouts. And Matt Stafford shows people again across the country that we're able to watch on Red Zone and bonus coverage. The guy is still a really, really good quarterback, just playing for one of like the 3 worst franchises in the sport. And we also forget that this guy had them competing for a couple of division titles for like a 4 or 5 year run there in Detroit. Then they decided to fire Jim Caldwell after 3 seasons, and 2 of which he was in the playoffs, because they were, I think they said they met their ceiling. Well, you're laying on the floor with Matt Patricia as your head coach. So they win, and he saves his job seemingly again for another week. But I thought it was more congrats to Matt Stafford than anything. Todd Gurley was just funny and also cost some people, I think, a lot of money. The Green Bay Packers are back on track. If you all forgot, they are actually pretty good. 132 quarterback rating, 233 yards, 4 touchdowns. Andrew Carlson told you all week that it was a lock. If you got it at -4, maybe you were sweating when Bakhtiari and Aaron Jones were named inactive, listed as out. But Andrew, you were all over Devontae Adams. I don't know if you were saying 13 catches for 196 and 2 tutties, but that was a freight train that Rodgers and Adams rolled into NRG with.
If you weren't starting Devontae Adams in every single DFS lineup you had,
yeah,
I don't really know what's wrong with you at this point. And I'm not the only one that's been screaming this from the mountaintops. The Texans cannot defend the pass at all. They have 0 pass rush and a god-awful secondary. If you have a legit number one wide receiver on the other team, he's going off for at least $150 and a touchdown every single time.
No, and the thing was about Adams was he was going up against whoever they threw over at him. And the second touchdown, the long one, the 45-yarder, I thought it was like a cover 3, and then he broke back inside, and it was like, well, he beat us. What are we going to do here? I actually went DFS with Adams, and then I coupled it with Deshaun Watson because I thought he was going to be throwing all over the place, especially when I knew Kevin King was out. That was a loss by me. I could have doubled up and really made the show pot some money. However, profitable day for the show pot yesterday. Andrew Carlson mostly to thank for that. But the Packers are back on track. They're still one of the top 2-3 teams in the NFC. They're one of the top 5, 6, 7 teams in football. And they're going to be there right at the end. Their defense needs to get healthier, I think, more than anything. Their pass rush still is a work in progress, but they have the dudes there. Like you saw Zadarius Smith yesterday after he rolls his ankle in the middle of the second quarter, still getting pressure on Watson all over the place. So they're going to be just fine after getting dismantled by Tampa Bay. And Tom was terrific again yesterday. We'll talk more about this one a little bit later on, what they did to the Las Vegas Raiders. But 45-20, Tom goes for 369 and 4 scores again. I know we're pretty focused on Rodgers and Wilson in the MVP conversation. What would Tom Brady have to do to get himself in there, or when does he start getting a part of those conversations? I mean, you're moving teams. You're already seeing them play more disciplined. That's usually a coach of the year conversation. But Tom's a guy that came from a organization and a system that's always been as consistently, disciplined, locked in step, getting better as the season goes on. He's going to find himself in those conversations, especially he keeps putting up days like that. I know everybody's not the Raiders, and not everybody can throw all over teams, but he's going to be able to put up some huge numbers. And as long as he avoids a clunker like Rodgers had last week or Russell Wilson had this week, he's going to find himself in those conversations. Browns and Baker rebound yesterday in Cincinnati. Starts 0-5, finishes 22 of 23 and spiked the ball. He was absolute money late. That rivalry is going to be back as good as it's ever been. Cleveland and Cincinnati, they both got some. Cincinnati's got the answer at quarterback. Joe Burrow's really good. Their offensive line is just a rotating door of different turnstiles. He was getting smacked all over the place. But OBJ goes out for Cleveland. Once again, here comes the storyline and the narrative that they're better without Odell. I don't know that they're better without Odell, but it's just natural. Who doesn't want to throw it to Odell Beckham Jr. if you're a quarterback? I would get it. I'd understand trying to force it a little bit, trying to force the hand. But he was just able to spread the ball completely around yesterday. Sucks for OBJ, but the injury and that story, we'll get into that more, I think, later into the week of what he really is now and what his market looks like, because you just feel like he might be done there in Cleveland, and it just ends in just such a tough spot. Making a tackle, trying to play for the team, and gets hurt like that. That was tough. Carolina showed they can hang with just about anybody. More impressive, though, I thought, were the New Orleans Saints. To play without Emmanuel Sanders, play without Michael Thomas, who I don't know when they're going to get Michael Thomas back here, or what that situation is going to look like if he's even in a Saints uniform by November 3rd. There's a bunch of rotating obstacles in that offense. And while Drew Brees doesn't look great, he looks good enough for a guy that can quarterback a team that has Latavius Murray and Alvin Kamara to run to. Jared Cook looked really good yesterday. He stepped up in the absence. I thought the Panthers were going to win the game outright. I told you, hammer them getting 7 on the road. Matt Rule has that ship steered in the complete right direction. But they were a bad Teddy Bridgewater sack away from tying the game, and that was like the worst mistake Teddy made all game, Andrew. Carolina was all over that game, all in that game. And New Orleans has some major flaws. Their defense and their pass rush with Davenport and Jordan, they can get after just about anybody. Their linebackers are really good too. Demario Davis is an absolute monster. He was all over the place covering up Mike Davis. They weren't able to run the ball really at all. So Carolina showed, again, I think that they're just going to be a pesky team for everybody. We talked to Nick Wilson earlier in the year. We should get him on later on this week maybe and just see where the evolution of that team was. Him and I agree that there was like 5 wins on that team. Now you're looking at them and say they could probably be 8-8, similar to where they could have been last year. Chiefs just obliterate the Broncos. They scored touchdowns with all 3 phases. That's going to be tough to beat. And they're going to be really, really tough to beat if they win games when Mahomes only throws for 200 and a score. The rest of the league is going to be in major trouble. Steelers, they answered the bell for 3 quarters there. We're going to talk more about this after the break. But did we learn more about Pittsburgh or learn more about Tennessee? You get dominated for 3 quarters, but they let you sneak back in there. Tennessee takes every inch you give them. They were still running the ball late in that game. They were playing pretty confident, even down 2 scores, I thought. They were playing with some risky offensive play calling. They were not slowing down. They were playing their game. That's impressive, man. A.J. Brown showed you that he's a top flight player in this league, too. He's pretty premier. Be able to crawl back from 20 down shows a lot. It shows what Mike Vrabel has set up, but maybe it just showed more about what Mike Tomlin already has established there in Pittsburgh. Jordan Dajani is going to join us coming up here in about 15 minutes from right now. National NFL writer for CBS. Jordan stops by on the Progressive Guest Hotline in 15 minutes. Let's hear more from the Pittsburgh Steeler game. I got a couple more thoughts on what that Steeler defense actually looks like, and Mike Tomlin will tell you just why they are that good next. Keep it right here, 1-800-224-2004. Take some phone calls as well in the next segment. Week 7 was blank to you because there were incredible early games. The middle slate just kind of deflated me. And then if you did not get absolutely stuffed with Sunday night last night, I don't know what else to say. And you're getting something today. The LA Rams showing everybody that they are for real. And maybe the Bears 5-1 is they are who we thought they were. Keep it right here. Jordan Dajani is here in 15 minutes from CBS Sports. SportsMap all night, off and running on SportsMap Radio. overtime in Nashville. Instead, it ended up with the Steelers 27-24 escaping a game that they led by 20 at one point. Ben Roethlisberger was finding Deontay Johnson all over the place yesterday at Nissan Stadium. But for Big Ben and the Steelers, that defense was as advertised for me for the first three quarters, man. To be able to bounce back without their green dot guy, without the Mike linebacker in their offense or in their defense with Devin Bush, have somebody in the middle that knows and coordinates everything, flies sideline to sideline, the kind of white out that you need in one of those 3-4 defenses. They really didn't miss a beat. They were in Tannehill's grill all day. I don't know exactly what the pressure breakdown is going to come out to, but I saw him have to get rid of the football very, very quickly. And they were at times knew you had to throw the football because of where they were at in the game, right? But still, to get Derrick Henry 20 carries, you got a real taste of what Tennessee can still be, even when they get down. But man, I watched Pittsburgh again. This is the third time that I've been able to watch pretty much all of a Pittsburgh game. And I haven't been sold throughout the season yet. I still see some differences that just don't. I watch them and I don't see a complete juggernaut like some do. Their defense is good. I don't think it's break out the champagne great, right? Like I don't see 15 Denver in there. I don't see early 2000s Baltimore. I see a really, really good defense, top 5 defense, but is that a Super Bowl champion defense? I just don't necessarily see it. And Ben Roethlisberger, 6-0 for the first time in his career. That's incredible. But I got to see what this defense does again next week. I thought it was the truest test you were going to get against Tennessee this past Sunday. And you get out to a big lead. That's why I want to give it one more run, Andrew, because once you get out to a big lead, it's human nature. The foot comes off the gas, right? I'm not really going to fault anybody for playing into quarters coverage and allowing anything underneath and somebody gets back into the game. But then you allow A.J. Brown to run right down the field on a slant or an in route, pick up huge yardage. When they needed to, still, the numbers weren't great. The per average wasn't amazing, but Derrick Henry was still able to get what he needed yesterday. I didn't walk away from that game as enamored with Pittsburgh as I think most were, but I definitely saw they're very good. They're as good as you can be with a defense that is your bell cow. And Ben Roethlisberger talked about it after the game. They're good, but they're really only going to be as good as they play next week when they get into Baltimore.
Feels good. Obviously, you want to be in this spot. You want to have these wins when you can. Obviously, a lot of our games have been at home, which you expect to win. But to go on the road twice and to come here to an AFC team that's undefeated as well and play them, it feels really good. But we know what's coming up next week. We can throw the records and all the other stuff out the window because we've got a team coming off the bye that's one of the best in football.
They were able to win the game where you lose the turnover battle. That doesn't happen very often. And then when you lose it 3-0, though, that's some real horseshoe kind of stuff. Most teams don't end up winning games when they lose the turnover battle that drastically. I mean, Big Ben threw 3 picks yesterday, and were they in the flow where ultimately you were able to give up monstrous points and truly kill you? If Steven Gostkowski puts that thing through the uprights, it just might into overtime, and Tennessee does it again as an overtime home winner. You're not going to be able to make those kind of mistakes when you go and play a team like Baltimore with an offense that does play from ahead really, really well. And same thing with Tennessee. I thought they were very built to play from ahead. But now you've seen them again be able to come from behind and force overtime, and this time the kick doesn't go through the uprights and they don't have a chance in overtime to do it. But as Mike Vrabel said after the game, It's different going down like you were a week ago against Houston. When you're going down against Pittsburgh Steelers and that defense, it's going to be an awful uphill climb to get. You're just not going to be able to fall behind teams like that and win too many games. You're going to need to play more from in front. And that's what made the Titans so good last year in the postseason. Mike Tomlin after the game was very complimentary of his football team, but he also saw maybe more of what I'm seeing, and that Tennessee is very, very good offensively. They just need some help on defense. Here's Mike Tomlin after the game.
We talked about it all week, man. We knew they wouldn't flinch. They've been in these type of games more than we have, to be quite honest with you. We knew that was a winning edge for them, and it showed. We had something to do with how the game got as well. You know, we gave up a big play for a touchdown. We turned the ball over. You do those things against good people, they're going to get back in the game 100% of the time. And thankfully, our guys didn't blink, man, and was able to hold it together and make enough plays to secure victory. Not a perfect product. We understand that. But I appreciate their efforts. We are perfect from a record standpoint. And so we respect that.
The final series for Pittsburgh went kneel down, interception, punt on a 5-play drive, interception, punt, field goal. That was the second half for the Pittsburgh Steelers. To be able to close out games, especially against playoff teams, you're going to have to be better, and you're going to not have to. You're going to have to not turn the ball over like Ben did yesterday. But listen, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They know that. Ben Roethlisberger's been in the league for a long time. Not telling him anything, groundbreaking. I do expect Pittsburgh to be in the mix, but from what I saw yesterday, I'm not seeing them as the number 1, 2, or 3 best teams in football. I think, Andrew, they're going to make my top 5 tomorrow night, which would be the first time I've put them up there all year. But I didn't come out of there seeing a juggernaut like some have so far.
I think they deserve more respect than you're giving them, but you're right. The way the Titans battled back, to me, said almost more about the Steelers than it did about the Titans.
And that's a weird place to get to after a game like that when they started out so strong, so fast. Jordan Dajani is going to tell us next, NFL writer from CBS Sports, how good he thinks the Pittsburgh Steelers are. And did we bury the 49ers too soon? What's wrong with Cam Newton? All of it coming up next, right here on SportsMap All Night, SportsMap Radio Network.
All Night with Bill Schmidt on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Bill Schmidt.
Welcome back in SportsMap Radio, SportsMap Radio Network. The show is SportsMap All Night. I'm Bill Schmidt. Andrew Carlson is alongside. Let's hit up the Progressive Guest Hotline now. Progressive, making it easy. Bundle your home and car insurance. Get your quote online at progressive.com today. Here's Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports. Jordan, Bill Schmidt, nice meeting you. Thanks for the time tonight. Appreciate you wrapping up Week 7 with us.
Bill Schmidt, nice to meet you as well. How are you doing, my friend? Thank you so much for having me on.
Man, I'm doing great. Watching this weekend of football, the early games was an absolute feast on Red Zone. I thought the afternoon games were kind of there, a lot of blowouts, but a lot that you could still pick from. And then the Sunday night game was just insane as well. Just talking about the Steelers and Titans game, out of that one, who did you come out being more impressed with, Jordan? The Pittsburgh Steelers, what they did in the first half, or the Tennessee Titans showing the resolve to be able to come back on a team that was 5-0?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I really do feel like we learned more about the Tennessee Titans in this matchup. Just the kind of comeback they were able to mount in the second half. Now, of course, the Steelers came out on fire in the first half, and I think that they wanted this game more and that they were more talented as well. They're kind of finding their rhythm as we progress further into the 2020 season. But the way the Titans can still come back on people, even if they don't have to rely on Derrick Henry as much, is something that's worth taking notice of, right? I mean, this has been a second half team through the early stages of the season. We've seen them go down double digits to the Minnesota Vikings and be able to come back. I know we're not in the business of moral victories, but I like what the Titans did in Week 7 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both of these teams did not play a perfect game, but these are still two of the better teams in the AFC, and I think that we're going to see them continue to get better as the year progresses.
Which one do you like more from what you've witnessed? Baltimore or that team in Kansas City that it doesn't matter what weather, where they're at. If Pat Mahomes is winning games throwing 200 and a score, the rest of the league is in a lot of trouble.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because the Baltimore Ravens were actually my pick for a Super Bowl champion in the preseason. But to be honest with you, I think I'm more impressed with what the Kansas City Chiefs have done so far. This offense is electric. They obviously have a new weapon to go through in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the rookie out of LSU. And I think the defense has been able to show up on multiple occasions this year as well. So I think the Chiefs are sitting in great position, ready to repeat. I wouldn't put too much stock in their loss to the Las Vegas Raiders. All their divisional games they played, minus the one they just did yesterday, they've been close games usually. And I think that the Raiders are a pretty competitive team, and that offense, when they're hot, and that defense can play with the best of them as well. So I really do like the Kansas City Chiefs. I still think that we need to see more out of the Baltimore Ravens in terms of their defense coming together. But more importantly, how about Lamar Jackson and his accuracy and his want to throw downfield? That's going to be the X factor I watch when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens moving forward.
Jordan Dajani joining us here on SportsMap All Night via the Progressive Guest Hotline. Guys, quote, buy, and save on home insurance with Progressive's new Home Quote Explorer only at progressive.com. NFL writer for CBS Sports. You just mentioned a key thing there, and being able to throw the ball downfield and the want to, right? The willingness of young quarterbacks being able to force the ball down the field. Joe Burrow, I don't know, man. I don't break down quarterbacks. I haven't done it for 30 plus years. I haven't scouted guys since the John Elway years, but I see Burrow, I see Herbert as two dudes that are going to be mainstays here because of their ability and effectiveness pushing the ball down the field, even when it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah, 100%. And when it comes to Joe Burrow, he definitely is somebody who's a playmaker. I mean, he's not leading the league in passing yards or anything, but he has that potential because he likes to take those shots downfield. And the way he sets up the pass game, just with his misdirection and what he does in the pocket, he has that star potential. There's no doubt about it. If the Bengals want him to throw 60 times a game, he's all for it. Now, when it comes to Justin Herbert, he throws one of the prettier deep balls in the NFL right now, and he's a rookie. He's playing in like his fourth or fifth game, and I'm extremely impressed with what I've seen in terms of his vision downfield, but also his pocket awareness. I mean, it's interesting that a rookie can kind of step up and still have a linebacker coming from the second level, ready to implant his face mask into his chest, and he can still throw that confidence downfield like we saw him do a couple weeks ago against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So you're right. These two players have shown that they're going to be mainstays in the league moving forward. It's great that these two teams that have struggled over the past couple of years have found their new quarterback.
Jordan, how bad can the Seattle defense be and them still compete for a Super Bowl?
They're just an anomaly, right? Like, it's so weird watching this team. They can't play a normal game, and it was weird because it felt like they were in control of the game the entire time last night, and all of a sudden they're losing in overtime. I mean, Tyler Lockett can catch 35 touchdowns, but apparently that's not good enough if his defense can't hold up their end of the bargain. There's no doubt that they need to toughen up when it comes to the run defense as well as what's going on in the secondary. Now, they have a lot of potential, but we're just not seeing consistent play when it comes to all three levels of the defense. So that's something that Pete Carroll definitely has to adjust and focus on as we enter the midpoint of this season, because this Seahawks team is very talented and they do have Super Bowl aspirations, but they're not going to get to the conference championship game or to the Super Bowl if that defense is not playing consistently.
Jordan Dejani joining us from CBS Sports. Who is the best team in that NFC West? Because I'm watching the Rams, who I'm really high on, absolutely beat down the Chicago Bears, who a lot of teams and a lot of people thought were, I think, a lot better than they actually are.
It's a good question because I was kind of out on the Rams. I thought after last year, I didn't think that they would be able to turn it around. I was kind of out on Sean McVay, but I really like what I've seen from this team so far. I like Darrell Henderson. I like Malcolm Brown. I like their wide receivers. Jared Goff seems like he's kind of taken a step forward after seemingly regressing and having to restructure his contract earlier this offseason. This Rams team is definitely scrappy, so watch them make the postseason as well, especially with the added wild card spot. But if you ask me right now, who's the best team in the NFC West? Even though they just lost last night, I think I'm going to have to roll with the Seattle Seahawks just because of the guy they have under center. He has that experience in the big games, in the Super Bowl. Kyler Murray is an up-and-coming star. There's no doubt about it, and I'm sure that he'll become an MVP in the coming years. But both of these teams are really good in terms of the Seahawks and the Cardinals, but if you're asking me who the best team is right now and who's going to win that division, I'll probably have to place my money on the Seattle Seahawks.
Jordan, I know we already crowned the MVP seemingly in week 6, and somebody's like the prohibitive front runner, and they're going to take away the award. I want to talk about it more this week, and I want to get your thoughts on it. What does Tom Brady have to do to win that award in Tampa Bay? Because the guy had 369 and 4 scores yesterday. I know it's one game, but to come in and reshape an organization, make them a more disciplined team, and a group that hadn't made the playoffs in 12, 14 years. You're talking about value. He's been the most valuable to that organization, kind of rechanging the way that you look at Buccaneer football.
Yeah, without a doubt. And he actually had 5 touchdowns if you count his one on the ground.
One running, yeah.
That's how good he was yesterday. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's scary to think about it. Like, I watched that game yesterday, and it really does seem like he's finding his footing with the offense, with his wide receivers. I mean, Scotty Miller looks like the new Julian Edelman or Wes Welker. Even if Mike Evans isn't necessarily putting up 200 yards receiving, there's a lot of mouths to feed on that offense. And Rob Gronkowski finding his footing as well. I like Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. That's a nice 1-2 punch. But, man, yeah, Tom Brady, some of the throws he made yesterday were throws that I said I don't think anyone else on the planet could probably make that throw, and he's 100 years old. So if he keeps up his the run that he's been on over the past couple of weeks, then yeah, I actually think that he could end up becoming the favorite to win MVP. Because if you just go back and look at the numbers from the past few weeks, he's been on fire, absolutely. And his defense has a lot of potential as well. They're stout, and don't forget, here comes Antonio Brown to the wide receiver.
No kidding.
A couple of weeks, so it'll be interesting to see how good this Buccaneers team can be moving forward.
I don't know. I'm starting to compare. I thought it was more of a retirement situation down there in Tampa. Let's set everybody up. Let's get to Florida. No income tax, right? Make some money. Now it feels more like old school. The old Vince Vaughn, Luke Wilson move. Let's bring in all our friends. We'll hang out. Now I'm best friends with Leonard Fournette, best friends with Antonio Brown. It's wild. The guy's having a great time. And you know what? I can't fault him for living his best life at this age in his career. What about another vet in, I think, one of the best teams in the NFC, the Green Bay Packers, what Aaron Rodgers is doing year 2 with LaFleur, Jordan?
Yeah, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, I think. I thought they got a lot of flack last year for no reason. A rookie head coach comes in, and all they can talk about is Aaron Rodgers' relationship with the previous head coach. We count them out before the season starts. They go 13-3, one game away from the Super Bowl, and all we can talk about is that they face an easy schedule all season long. Now, fast forward to the next year, we downed them because they messed up the NFL draft and took a quarterback in the first round. They come out completely on fire. It's about time people recognize that Matt LaFleur is a hot name in the NFL, that he's a legitimate head coach. And you know what's important is Aaron Rodgers is having fun again. Let's just throw out the loss to the Buccaneers. They were due for a loss. That was a trap game. I get it. They were able to rebound against the Houston Texans, which is important. This Packers team has a lot of potential, and it wouldn't shock me if they get to the Super Bowl. That being said, I reserve the right to officially say that if Antonio Brown comes in and all of a sudden tears it out the Tampa Bay.
That is it's a total outlier. This is what I've been yelling at people on the afternoon show that I did in Milwaukee, that the Packers with Matt LaFleur, look at what they do and look at what he has done in the wins and losses category. I mean, winning ugly in this league is something that you can perfect. And despite, 37 points from Kyler Murray and 34 from Russell Wilson is fun, but you still got to be able to win it when crunch time comes. And there's another team that seems to do that a lot so far this year. And as I look at New Orleans, the more I'm starting to get worried, because that defense down there, Jordan, is better, I think, than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, I agree. That's secondary watching them. I mean, they're inconsistent. I mean, and that's probably not even the best word for it. Like, they're either looking really, really good or they're giving up 75-yard touchdowns to DJ Moore 2 times a game like they did on Sunday. So they're like Seattle. This is a team that definitely has to kind of toughen up, find some consistency on the defensive side of the ball. I know it's fun to count out Drew Brees and say that the Saints are done, but let's at least wait till he gets his top 2 wide receivers back in Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. I know Alvin Kamara is a leading receiver and all that, but we have to remember this offense does have a lot of weapons, and I like what they have at the tight end position as well. So this Saints team is solid. They're going to be in it to the very end. They're going to be competitive with anybody they face. So definitely a team to watch as the season progresses.
NFL writer for CBS Sports. He's phenomenal. Jordan Dajani joining us. One final thing for you, Jordan. Who's the most surprising team through 7 weeks to you in the NFL?
The most surprising team. Ooh. I'm going to have to pull up the standings right now, honestly. The most surprising team to me probably has to be the Tennessee Titans. I was a fan of the Titans in terms of like their potential coming into this year, and I didn't think that last year was a fluke, but I didn't expect them to come and go 5-1, take the Steelers down to the wire, and then Ryan Tannehill. He's statistically been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL since he took over the starting role in Week 7 of last year. I mean, he's literally on par with Patrick Mahomes' numbers. Not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, of course, but his resurgence we've seen in Nashville has been absolutely incredible. Pair him with Derrick Henry. They became the first duo, the first team in the NFL to have a 350-yard plus passer and a 200-plus yard rusher in the same game. They did that against the Houston Texans a couple weeks ago. So this Titans team is for real. I think there's some questions on the defensive side of the ball as well, but Ryan Tannehill is not just benefiting off of Derrick Henry. This guy is accurate when he comes throwing downfield, and he has some legit weapons to work with in like guys like A.J. Brown as well. So the Titans have impressed me so far. Like I already mentioned at the beginning of this interview, I think that we learned a lot about this team, even though they suffered their first loss of the season. They're going to win the AFC South in my mind, and it's going to be interesting to see what they can do this year.
CBS Sports, CBS Sports Radio, NFL guy Jordan Dajani joining us here on SportsMap all night. Thanks, man. A lot of fun. Great meeting you. Great conversation. Hopefully we can do it again. Jordan, thanks.
You as well. Anytime. Thank you.
Thanks, man, for Jordan joining us, guys. Progressive is proud to honor our veterans by donating cars to move their lives forward, especially in times of need. Learn more about their Keys to Progress program and plans for 2020 at keys2progress.com. That's where Jordan Dajani joins us, the Progressive Guest Hotline. Fun conversation from CBS Sports. Go follow him on Twitter at Jordan Dajani as well. Dajani is how you spell that, and find him and all his work on social media as well. Take a quick time out, and the dumpster fire continues. Not SportsMap all night. I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Keep it right here. This is great. SportsMap all night.
Bill Schmidt.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, a hit that caused a disqualification. But yeah, well, I mean, we speak all the time about playing for one another, protecting one another. So it definitely was probably not the response that you would expect.
That is the voice of Mike McCarthy, head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, yesterday after his new starting quarterback, Andy Dalton, gets absolutely smoked by John Bostic. And Andrew, I don't know how much of the football team against the Cowboys anybody really watched, because Red Zone didn't really peek in on it for good reason. It was 25-3. The Cowboys got absolutely exposed and dismantled and embarrassed on the road. But Bostic just lays out Andy Dalton as he's slid very late. All right, I will give defensive players a little bit of a break here. If you're going to slide, why don't you get down and make sure that you don't get poked like Andy Dalton did. Nevertheless, dirty play, bad hit. Let's get it out of the game. He's not going to apparently get suspended, disqualified. That's fine. But did you see nobody go and help him up from the Dallas Cowboys, as Mike McCarthy mentioned there?
You want to talk about a broken team?
Oh, man.
Broken team.
Dude, he couldn't even, no one would even give him like a hand. Be like, hey, man, why don't you dust yourself up off there? Or go and, I don't know, fight John Bostic. That's one of those where the team will waive your penalty. They'll pay your fine. Sour of the program presented by Rocket Mortgage. When you want the ability to adjust your home loan options in real time, Rocket can. 2 more hours of the program. You can hang around with us and you can phone us up. 1-800-224-2004. SportsMap all night.
Here's Bill Schmidt.
Hour number 2 on a Monday. It's SportsMap all night. Bill Schmidt hanging out with you. My guy Andrew Carlson in here as well. The Bears are trying to make this a game, and then Nick Foles just threw his second interception of the game, and that's going to be all she wrote. 24-10, Rams over Chicago here. There's about 3 minutes to go, and just actualities at this point at SoFi Stadium. So the Rams are going to go to 5-2. Bears will also be at 5-2, and we will conclude Week 7 in the National Football League here in just a matter of moments. The moment of Week 7, Andrew, last night was about to be the DK Metcalf game when he ran down Budda Baker looking like Usain Bolt closing all the way down the home stretch. I almost had a major problem with StatCast in the Sabermetrics group, though. Now, you're very, very Sabermetrics literate. Is that how I would pronounce that? You are very into and good at understanding and at least explaining it to somebody who acts very boomerish when it comes to Sabermetrics and baseball. You're very good at the numbers and the advanced analytics, right? You tap yourself on the head and give yourself that, right?
I may not do that myself, but I appreciate the credit for it.
Okay. Well, I almost had a major problem with them yesterday. Watching the Sunday night broadcast, the next gen stats, I think is what it is. They were marking down DK Metcalf going like 21 miles an hour running to chase down Budda Baker, right? That was slower than one Daniel Jones apparently ran on his touchdown run that he had going or his touchdown to be run on Thursday Night Football. If anybody thinks that Daniel Jones was faster than DK Metcalf last night, I don't know what's wrong. 22.64 though. Today they break it down as his full sprint. It's the second fastest speed reached on a tackle this season. I don't know, man. I haven't seen anybody be that fast and be that big. It looked like something out of a zombie apocalypse movie. Guy was absolutely flying. Let's get into more of that game coming up here next. How good can Seattle be with a defense that bad? Keep it right here. SportsMap all night.
Bill Schmidt.
48-yard attempt for Zane Gonzalez, looking to win the game and get some redemption here in overtime. 20 seconds to go. Snap. Ball is down. Kick from Gonzalez is up. It looks good. It is good! The Cardinals win it! An incredible finish at State Farm Stadium. The Cardinals take down Seattle 37-34.
That was Dave Pash, courtesy of 98.7 FM, Arizona Sports, on the call last night of the overtime winner. Took 69 minutes and 45 seconds to get our final winner of the Sunday slate in the NFL, but the Cardinals outlast the Seattle Seahawks, whose defense continues to just show how bad they really are in a pass rush sense. I mean, it is completely non-existent somewhat on Kyler Murray last night, and breaking, like, if you're not a great pass rusher in this league, the one thing you can do is keep contain on a guy that's quick and elusive like Kyler. You can at least play the defense and just play it the way you have to. Somewhat collapse the pocket very slowly. Just make sure that he can't get out. Don't get too deep. Consistently blowing the outside wide open. Kyler able to elude a defender here, move his way out here. Guy ended up running last night for 67. Whatever the stat was, first game that you've seen two quarterbacks throw for 300 and each run for 50 or whatever. It lived up to the billing of Russell and Kyler. No doubt about it. But after watching Seattle last night, it is going to be a damn shame if this team can't win a Super Bowl because their defense is just this bad. I mean, 15 catches and 200. 3 TDs last night from Tyler Lockett. And that's one of the all-time best receiving days you're going to find. They didn't even need DK Metcalf outside of the Budda Baker play. He saw the ball, what? How many targets did he end up with? 4? 3? I mean, he was somewhat non-existent to a point. But Russ goes 50 times through the air, 388, 3 scores, 3 TDs. They roll on offense, no doubt about it. But when you are consistently letting drives continue just to eat up clock and eat up yards against you, they're going to have to be able to get after some quarterbacks here. Because while they gave up 300 to Cam, and we all saw what Cam did yesterday, like, that's starting to look even worse on the Seattle train. Matt Ryan, he's been throwing for a bunch of yards on anybody, but they allowed him to go for 400. Dak, we already know what happened in that third game of the year. They let Ryan Fitzpatrick eat pretty well, even in some garbage time. It's just, they have to be at least marginally better, I think, to be able to win a Super Bowl. If they're going to, you can win a Super Bowl with a defense that's, I mean, top 15, top 17. At least if you're in the upper half, you can allow that offense to carry you, because that offense is elite. Metcalf, Lockett, Moore, whoever else you want to throw in there. I mean, they can spread the ball around to everybody and anybody. Carlos Hyde looked really good last night in a Seattle uniform, rocking the number 30, all gray alternate, after Chris Carson leaves. They can still run the ball. Like, their offensive line isn't a sieve like it's been for years past. Russ actually has a decent amount of time to survey the field, and they're playing well. But their pass rush is completely gone. And Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, middle part of the defense. Maybe that's why people don't think linebacking play matters too much in the NFL anymore, because of what they do with such great linebackers. But their defense is so tough right now. Pete Carroll talked about it after the game. When you drop 34 and you had multiple chances to win the game, and you allow a team to get back when you were up 10 multiple times, that's got to be tough to swallow.
Russell's numbers are huge.
with throwing and rushing and all of that, and the 3 picks get you. We're -1 for the game. That's how it goes. -1 is really hard to win, and none of those had happened. And so I know he's really disappointed about that for sure. So it's a tough night for us in the desert. We've had a lot of success down here, and we look like we're going to have it again. And we look like we won the game in OT, and we got a penalty on us, and to take that away. So that's how close these games are. They're all over the league, and this is what we're up against. It's going to be like this week in, week out. We're versed. We're versed. We just got to find a way to come through and make the plays like we know how to do.
That Metcalf callback that they made to bring that play back. I mean, was it a hold? Yes. It's a play that you just don't see called a whole lot in the league today. But I mean, if you didn't see how quick their offense can strike with that run, that little tunnel screen they ran over to them, they are explosive. Top 2-3 units in the league. But at least Kansas City, right? I mean, you saw it yesterday, 200, a touch, score on the defensive side, score on the special team side. They can beat you in a multitude of ways. And they got big-time talent at each position, right? They at least have there's levels to the defense that you got to have. And for Kansas City, all-pro at the first level in Chris Jones, right? Big-time player with Frank Clark on the outside there. They can get after somebody. They got a back end with Tyrann Mathieu where there's Pro Bowl talent there. They make Ward and Breeland better on the outside, I think, than really their talent is because of the way that they can get after the passer. And when you can do that, you can cover up a lot of different things. When you lose Shaquille Griffin, you saw what that did to that offense or that defense yesterday. And Russell Wilson throwing 3 picks. I brought Tom Brady's name into the MVP conversation because I think it kind of deserves to be there, especially after what we've now seen again, and this time against a team on the road in Vegas. I'm not hearing much let Russ cook conversation after he throws the 3 picks and the bad one to end it for Seattle in overtime. Here's Russ on his performance last night.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we played a great game except for those 3 plays. I mean, honestly, those are my fault. So, there's so much that we can do, and we have so much confidence. Our confidence is not going to waver. They're a great football team too, and we knew it was going to be a battle. It always is, and down here, and whenever we play. So nothing really changes except for the fact that we just have to tighten up some things. I have to be better, which I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to playing the next game. I wish we could play tomorrow, and that's just our mentality, and we'll be back stronger. We'll be better.
That's the most Russell Wilson answer you could possibly find, isn't it, Andrew? I wish we could play tomorrow. I'm just ready to go, man. I'm just ready to play, ready to put it behind us. Guy is as positive as any human being in the world. But it's hard. What else is he supposed to say? Yeah, man, I mean, put up 34, but our defense can't stop a AAYFL team. So, I mean, if we can't stop the 6th graders from running up on us. I mean, they're allowing everybody to go. However, I don't think anything can be taken away from Arizona. They're 5-2. This is probably a playoff team at this point. And if the season ended today, Arizona's absolutely in the playoffs. But the beginning of the year, you saw the improvements that they made. You've seen incremental change in what I think Cliff Kingsbury is doing at the coaching position. Had himself a little blunder there in overtime, and it didn't cost them, right? When they set up Zane Gonzalez the first time, then iced their own kicker because they were late getting the play in, late getting the kicking unit on. There's still some of those glitches that he has. But all in all, I think Cliff Kingsbury is improving as a head coach. No doubt about it. It's easier to improve when you get better players, right? You have a legit number 1 wide receiver in Hopkins who can change the course of a game all over the place. They're getting Fitz more involved, which I love. And Arizona's legit. It's a different way of answering the question or saying it to, I think, Seattle fans today when you say, how are you feeling after losing to the Cardinals? This isn't losing to Arizona, in 2015 when that was an embarrassing loss. This is a good football team. Yeah, really good players on offense. like you, their defense is bad. But their quarterback is young. He's dynamic. He's one of the new faces, soon to be faces of the league. And Kyler Murray said it was an absolute statement win for Arizona last night. This game
is huge, for us to do that. Sunday Night Football against one of the best teams in the league. Somebody that's in our division is huge. But at the same time, we understand what we have in our locker room. We understand the type of guys, type of playmakers we have. Now, like I said, to make that next step, and for us, wanting to be the best, you got to beat the best, and that's just the nature of this game. In any sport, you got to beat the best. So I think that was a big step for us.
I like that he dropped a little Ric Flair in there. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And it's exactly right for Arizona. I mean, Seattle's dominated that division for a long time. If you're going to be able to be the playoff team that you think you can be, that you want to be, that your talent probably says you should be, you're going to have to go through Seattle. It's a tough spot to play. It's a tough spot to be in. But Arizona showed, I think they're a floor playoff team, right? They're a 5, 6, or a 7 seed in the playoffs and getting better, only going to improve, especially the way that they're trying to add in talent. But if Seattle's defense does not improve, even if you just get one legit pass rusher, the Yannick Ngakoue trade. I mean, I think he's better suited for a 3-4 and how he's going to be asked to rush the passer in Baltimore. It's probably a better fit for him. But those are the deals you got to make if you're a Super Bowl team. And Seattle knows that. John Schneider's done it year in and year out. Look at him last year going and making the all-in move for Jadeveon Clowney. They had Clowney this year. Even just one guy. It's a completely different looking front. But if you don't have anybody on third down that can get after a quarterback and make it remotely difficult, it's going to be an uphill climb. And it's going to be a shame because that offense is so good. Russ is in for a little bit more of a fight on the MVP award than it looked like a week ago, than it looked like 2 weeks ago. But everybody's down for a stinker, you can say. I don't know that you can call 380, 3 touchdowns, 33 of 50 a clunker. 3 picks, sure. That was a tough game. That was a wild game. And ultimately, it showed a lot of warts that Seattle still has. They're a top 5 team in the league. But if that defense still looks like it's more the 25th ranked defense in the league, they're not going to go very deep into January. One team that's as deep and as close as ever to clinching their World Series. In 15 minutes, Maury Brown is here, MLB senior contributor from Forbes. Let's talk World Series next. What a weekend we saw in Arlington. We'll wrap it up with you right here on SportsMap All Night.
The Dodgers beat the Rays 4-2. They now lead the World Series 3-2. Coming back from last night's devastating loss, the Dodgers are one win away from winning the World Series.
That was Charlie Steiner last night on Los Angeles Dodger Radio, KLAC AM 570, one of the most historic radio stations in the country, just like one of our local affiliates, WCCO up in Minneapolis. This is SportsMap All Night on SportsMap Radio. I'm Bill Schmidt. Andrew Carlson is alongside, and you can join us here inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts studios at 1-800-224-2004. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Don't let a bad battery leave you stranded. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts can test your battery free of charge. If it needs to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact right battery for your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. Keep your car on the road by getting your battery tested for free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better parts, better prices each and every day. Watching game number 5 after the absolute hysteria that unfolded in game number 4, Andrew, I watched a game last night that was as tense of a baseball game, I think, than I've watched in the last 3 or 4 years.
I thought it was a very composed performance by the Dodgers.
Mhm.
Given everything that's gone on in their past, especially in the World Series at this stage, and what happened in Game 4, for them to come out the way they did in Game 5, I was very impressed.
It was championship attitude. It was championship pedigree, no doubt about it. To be able to bounce back after, like, the way that it all went down, how funky that Game 4 final play was. I mean, I imagine everybody's seen it at this point where a Rosarena falls and, Jansen doesn't back up home. I wonder if he's behind home plate, wherever that ball ends up going, maybe a Rosarena doesn't go back in. However it transpires, however it plays out. The Rays win a miraculous, wild game in 4. But then you come out with your guy on the bump, give the ball to Kershaw, and he wasn't great last night. Like, he wasn't elite. He wasn't next level Clayton that we've seen and that we saw in game 1, I think. But let's call it this way. He's an intimidating dude whenever he steps up onto the mound, right? I mean, you're still looking at a future Hall of Famer, a guy that's got 3 Cy Young awards. There's no way you're looking up at a game and saying, oh, we got this cat. However, sit over onto the other side. Glasnow he battled it through all 4 2/3 of whatever they ended up giving him. But Kershaw was good enough to make it a really, really hard decision for Dave Roberts to pull him. And Clayton Kershaw said it's going to be really hard to relax after a Game 5 like that, because Game 6 tomorrow night, Snell on that other side, on the bump for Tampa Bay, cannot be very unsettling. Here's the winner last night.
Yeah, the off day is going to be hard tomorrow, I think, just because, it's going to be good for us, obviously, resetting our bullpen and things like that, which is huge. But sitting around 1 win away from a World Series is going to be hard, especially when you've been in the same hotel for 4 weeks now. But, I think we can wait one more day, and we'll all be ready to go Game 6. And, for myself personally, I'm still going to try and get ready, try and, recover as best I can and be ready to pitch at any moment, just because it's the last 2 games of the season,
I got to think we've learned our lesson, Andrew, from putting Clayton Kershaw in a relief role in the World Series, right? Have they learned that lesson yet?
I would hope so.
Does Dave Roberts really need to see how that story ends again? I'm praying we don't see that, because I've been happy to see Clayton kind of rebound that image, get away from the disastrous whatever 13 he gave up against the Astros and inflated his ER. Let's put that to the side. Go be you. Finish this game off and go root on Walker Buehler if it gets to Game 7. Gonsolin is going to get the ball for the Dodgers tomorrow night, and despite losing 5. If there's a team that comes into it saying, we're okay having to win last 2, win 2 in a row, I think Snell and Morton gives you more reason to be optimistic, right, than Gonsolin and Buehler. I mean, am I completely off base there? I'm seeing a Cy Young guy in Snell and dude that's pitched in Game 7 of the World Series in Morton. He did not look good at all in Game 3, but I'm going to go with the pedigree, and I still think Tampa is a live dog here. Last night, though, after the game, Clayton Kershaw also said what it felt like to be able to walk off the stadium a winner and get cheered off of a World Series game. But most importantly, what about Dave Roberts and how determined his team is to finish this thing in Game 6?
I don't think anyone's thinking about Game 7. We're going to kind of enjoy tomorrow as an off day, get guys rested, and focus on Game 6. Gonson's going to start, and we expect to win. And that's all we're thinking about.
One of the more surprising moves from last night, and a complete game changer, though, was Manuel Margot's decision to try to steal home against Clayton Kershaw. This was Kevin Cash's description of it last night.
I think we try to do things and make decisions and allow players to be athletic, be the athletes they are. And if Manny felt that he had a read on it for whatever reason, it's tough for me to say yes or no, just because he's a talented base runner. He might be seeing something that certainly I'm not or can't appreciate in the moment right there, and he's trying to do something to pick his team up. I know Kershaw has the real high hand set, whatever he does, and I think Manny just felt like he had a beat on it that he could time him up. Frustrating inning. First man on third, no outs. Then first and third, no outs. Pop up, strike out, and then get thrown out trying to do that. Ideally, we got to find a way to get that guy in to tie the game right there.
Tampa had their chances. Their guys had good nights outside of Lau. Margot was on twice. Rosarena was on. He had an RBI. Diaz at the top of the lineup got on twice. Like they were leaning on their dudes and coming off of a game where they had all the momentum after Saturday night. I thought last night was telling with the Dodgers being able to flex some more championship muscle. Maury Brown from Forbes, senior contributor for covering the major leagues, is here next. More World Series talk with Maury Brown on SportsMap all night after this. O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. I'm Bill Schmidt. Thanks for hanging out with us. My guy Andrew Carlson in here as well. The Rams win 24-10 on Monday Night Football. Next week will be an absolute bloodbath. The Buccaneers play the Giants. That's just not even fair. But we'll still talk about it. We'll be talking all week 8 and what it has in store for us. Steelers and Ravens. Can't wait for that one already. Over the weekend, though, we'd be drastically missing our point and not doing our jobs. We didn't talk about 254 and what we saw over the weekend. I will admit, Andrew, I got back just in time for the main event. So I missed the rest of the card. However, I did get to enjoy just an absolutely thrilling football scrimmage. So it was that was tremendous. However, Habib Gaethje, I don't know if it could live up to the hype, but what Habib Nurmagomedov did after the fight to put the gloves down with, I think, one of the best post-fight retirement speeches you could have. I mean, he was composed for a guy that was just sobbing on the mat right before. It all made sense. And there were a lot of, as always, I think when these fighters retire right after a fight, there's a lot of, oh, he'll be back. I actually believe Habib. I don't know about you, but I thought it was very well put together. Felt like he had thought about it quite a bit, said he didn't want to fight without his father there anymore. I believed him, and I thought it was the perfect way he could go out.
I didn't think there was a much better way for him to go out, and I don't expect to see him back. He's not someone that, at least from the outside perspective, seems to be all that motivated by money. Otherwise, he would have fought Conor McGregor again. So, to me, I think he did just about as well as he could have with the whole process. And, he made his deal for this one last fight, and he's going to be one of the greatest of all time. He's going to go out on top.
And he said this to DC on an interview. He was going to do an armbar, said Daniel Cormier. He had heard Justin saying all week he would never tap out. He didn't want to hurt him in front of his parents. I mean, Habib is just next level good. He goes a triangle choke in the second round and finishes Justin Gaethje. Be right back. Is Cam finished? Hopefully not. SportsMap all night.
Hi, this is Jay Farm, CEO of Rocket Mortgage. Make
your disadvantage. But for the majority of that game, just watching and feeling how good Tampa's defense and how fast they really are. Devin White tracked down Derek Carr one time on a run towards the sideline. I want to say it was like 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. And Devin White just escorted him out a yard and a half short, saying, listen, I mean, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. And he was flying across the field, sideline to sideline speed at the linebacker spot. There's only a few guys that I think truly have it. Bobby Wagner had it for a long time. Maybe starting to slow down just a tick. Roquan Smith in Chicago has that kind of speed. And Devin White does. And Devin Bush does as well in Pittsburgh. And we hope that he makes a full recovery as well. But I mean, that type of legit sideline to sideline speed that you also bring a punch with in a pop, that Buccaneer defense is so scary. And then you add in what they're going to do now on the offensive side. I said 369, 4 touchdowns. Andrew Carlson's also with us here inside the Houston Mothership Studios, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Andrew, you want to venture a guess? Say how many catches one Mike Evans had yesterday?
What was it, 2?
Yeah, 2 catches on 2 targets. Like, if Brady's going to throw for 369, and a guy that he said in a pregame or a postgame press conference earlier this year was this on the same level in his mind as Randy Moss. He has 2 catches, and you're still putting up 45. The rest of the league's going to be in some major trouble. 21 in the 4th quarter, just for good measure, to completely finish out the Las Vegas Raiders. Ronald Jones got himself into the end zone. Brady got himself into the end zone. Godwin, 9 catches for 88. Scotty Miller had the long deep ball for a touchdown as well. Like, they continue to build. They continue to, I think, just get cleaner as a unit. And then Tom Brady is able to now get Antonio Brown coming up into the mix. Like, just another weapon that they're going to add to an already ridiculously potent offense that Tom is going to find himself into the MVP conversation if he isn't already there. And whatever Antonio Brown has left, if it's a ton, if it's anything really at this point, you listen, got a couple of sound bites from Bruce Arians to play for you. But first off, I don't know if I'm believing what Bruce Arians has to say here, but Bruce Arians believes that the Antonio Brown move, first off, was nothing more than an insurance policy, and you can never have too many elite weapons. And that's why Antonio Brown is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, says Bruce Arians.
It's an insurance policy. When we don't have Mike and we don't have Chris, why not have another Pro Bowl player, caliber player, that's available that fits our cap and fits everything else? So why not? We have good players. You can't have enough of them. When in Chicago we got one of our top guys out there on one leg. Why not have another one?
And then Bruce Arians continues to say that he doesn't know what everybody believes, but Tom Brady had nothing to do with Antonio Brown now becoming a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Come on, please, Bruce.
I think he's matured, and I believe in second chances. Everybody wants to say that Tom picked him. Tom didn't have anything to do with it. This was something Jason and I have been talking for a couple of weeks, ever since the injuries to our other guys. And when the time was right, would we see if we could pull the trigger and fit it into what we want to get done? And we'll see. I mean, we have nothing. If Antonio does what I think he's going to do, he's going to be fine.
Well, if he does what you think he's going to do, he's going to be one of the top players in the league. Like, that's just what he does. He's that good. He is still, despite what we can see, right? And I think despite what we have seen from Antonio Brown, it's been spotty. It's been different. But he is still electrifying when he gets the ball in his hands. He's one of the most dynamic route runners I've ever seen. And in a league where Now, I covering Green Bay and being up here for as long as I have in Wisconsin, there's always this thought like Jordy Nelson wasn't an elite receiver because, well, he's not, doesn't look like DK Metcalf, right? No, they don't have a number one guy. They don't have a Julio Jones guy. They don't have a Calvin Johnson guy. That's what I feel like it's always been. That prototypical monstrous wide receiver, right? I mean, Andrew, you watched Andre Johnson just destroy the entire league for how long? And he was that freakishly big dude who was a matchup nightmare. Go throw it up and let him go make a crazy catch. That's not Antonio Brown. He's never had that ability, and he just cooks you with incredible route running, precision, and just a toe drag swag that I don't think is much matched in this league. Doesn't mean he's not one of the most dangerous wide receivers still on the planet. Now, have we seen it done for a year? More like 2 years? How much stock can we put really into one game with against the Miami Dolphins with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots last year in week 1? Tom mentioned the Antonio Brown game that he played with and voiced his excitement for adding number 84 into the mix there in Tampa.
Well, he's a tremendous football player, and I played with him for a brief period of time. So I'm looking forward to working with him again, and see what role he can come in, and he's a very hardworking guy. So again, we're all going to go out there on the practice field and do the best we could do, and we're going to see how it all fits together.
I did not think that when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay that he would be top 5 in the league in attempts here at week 7, that he'd be top 3 in completions, top 3 in touchdowns, and still be looked at. And kind of at this point, I just think he's got to be in the conversation. He's got to be looked at right now, the way that he's played, the weapons they have around them, and the success that the team is having. If they win the division, right, say they win the NFC South, he brings a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in 12, 13 years back to the playoffs. They're already on a trajectory to finish, I think, 8 or 9 spots higher in penalties per game. Cleans up that aspect of the team. It's all a culture that he's brought to Tampa from an incredibly built model in New England that Tom's going to have to factor into the MVP voting. Maybe we don't want to give in and feel like it could be a lifetime achievement award, but the more and more I'm hearing it and the more and more I say it, I'm guilty of it as well. It feels like the Russell Wilson declaration that he's the MVP has something to do with it being a lifetime achievement award that he hasn't had one yet, that he hasn't got a vote yet. Oh, it's Russ's time. He's going to get one. These MVP candidacies, usually somebody goes and takes it. Russell Wilson was your leader in the clubhouse last year till week 9 or 10. And then Lamar Jackson just did superhuman stuff for the final 7 weeks of the year and took the award. Tom's putting himself in position to take his fifth MVP award. It's pretty incredible stuff to see how dynamic their offense is. He says it's still getting better, right? Mark Schlereth had something on the broadcast yesterday with Adam Amin where Tom talked to them in their pre-game, conference call that they do. And Tom was saying, yeah, we aren't able to really have the same amount of work during the games on the sidelines like we did in Foxborough because, it's 60 degrees there and it's always cold. So you stay up and you stay loose and we work on different route combinations on the sidelines. We're not able to do that in Tampa. Well, their offense keeps getting better, keeps clicking more and more. I don't know if it's, mid-game changes they're doing or just the way that they're practicing and the opportunities more vastly coming to them from personnel moves as well as teams just playing poorly around them. But 5-2, Tampa, gets the Giants next week, and then a daunting 4 games. Saints, Panthers, who I think are better than people give them credit for, Rams, Chiefs. You'll know what this team is all about that run. Right? Going into their bye. They have a way to stretch it out here. But at New York, win next week on Monday Night Football. They'll go to 6-2. Then it's the Saints on Sunday night. Much better Panther team. Monday night against the Rams. Sunday afternoon primetime game against the Chiefs. And then they finally get their bye. I think by that Chiefs game, you're imagining Antonio Brown's fully up to speed and their offense is clicking even better than it is now. Don't show anybody that's a Patriot fan because their offense looked bleak, to say the least, yesterday. We'll get into what a disaster it was for the New England Patriots yesterday. But are the San Francisco 49ers, did we kill them off too early? Did we doubt San Francisco's ability to get back to the Super Bowl a little too soon? They looked like a big-time playoff team yesterday. Or maybe it was the opponent. San Francisco and New England played a must-win for each team, and one dominated. We'll talk about it next. Keep it right here at SportsMap All Night. Bill Schmidt and Andrew Carlson inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios with you. He's at Carlson Radio on Twitter. Make sure to go follow him, especially if you like to see just angry, venomous tweets, venom-filled tweets about Houston sports. Other than that, dude's super positive. Andrew Carlson, check him out on Twitter. I'm at Bill Schmidt Radio. If you like seeing weird videos of football coaches screaming and crowd surfing, I think I posted one of those on Twitter this weekend. I like to give the positive things on Twitter, Andrew, because that place just gets gross after a while. Like on a Sunday of the NFL, there's this guy sucks and this guy's got to get fired. And, oh my God, this is the best team in the league. I just like to sit back and observe and then get to hang out with you. I know maybe that's not the right thing to do, but we like to have some fun. So I give some of the positive, just fun, happy things on Twitter. Andrew can give you the breakdown of Houston sports and also some good positivity there. How are those for plugs? Are we getting better?
Look, I mean, what else is Twitter for than for the positivity? Because I certainly can't handle people complaining about their fantasy teams for 24 hours.
Oh my gosh. Is it not ridiculous? Dude, that's not what we came here for. We didn't need to know that your third wide receiver outscored your starter. There's also this and maybe this clears up next week on Wednesday once this election process is all done. But there's just like this big dunk on you situation where it's like a race to go tell everybody you were right and that everybody else was wrong. And then everybody that is right high fives each other. And then everybody that was wrong says, no, you're a jerk, and uses more colorful language than we can right here on this show. It's an interesting place. It's fun, though. And you can also find us at SportsMap Radio. And that's a really positive thing because then you get to hear everybody that's on the station, right? What everyone's talking about on the station, and find the podcasts right there as well. That is called a helpful, positive Twitter follow. That's worth hitting the follow button. And then not the mute button, which I have been getting better at, by the way, is using the mute button. I won't do that on anybody that's listening here, though, on SportsMap All Night. Because if you're hanging out with us on SportsMap All Night, it means that you're most likely probably one of the more fun friends that you have. And we like good people on this show. It's one of the reasons why I like Kyle Shanahan, and I really like the 49ers this week. But first, we're inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Need replacement parts and tools for your repair, maintenance, or restoration project? O'Reilly Auto Parts has you covered. Trust the knowledgeable, friendly, professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. They know what it takes to get the job done right the first time. In fact, professional technicians have counted on O'Reilly Auto Parts for years. Stop by and talk to one of the professional parts people today at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. I really did like the 49ers this week going into Foxborough, Andrew, and to be able to run the ball like the 49ers did. And they held the ball for almost 39 minutes in that game. While the prevailing thought was how bad Cam looked, and a lot of people, as I mentioned, the dunk on you culture and social media and the hate group that is some young people, there was a feeling of, well, I'm not seeing anybody talk about how great Cam is now. Right? Jeff Garcia was talking about his clothing and like how he needs to dress more like a professional and not be so outlandish if he's going to throw like that. I still saw a San Francisco team, and maybe this is where I saw more out of Tennessee than I did Pittsburgh in a loss. But I think San Francisco is still really, really good. And Seattle's great in that division. We just saw the Rams tonight beat up and kick the Bears' arse right on out and back to the Windy City. I think we're all infatuated with what Kyler Murray can do. And they're almost like a forgotten son out there in the NFC West. But they're 4-3. They went to the Super Bowl a year ago. Jeff Wilson ran for 3 touchdowns, and then they crank in 2 more undrafted dudes at running back. I just walked out of there seeing, man, we killed the 49ers way too early. Was it Cam for you, the biggest story and the shocker that you felt yesterday in Foxborough, or was it more of how good the 49ers looked?
For me, I think it was just slightly more of Cam because I've come to expect this with the 49ers. I think they have the best next man up culture in the NFL where it just seemingly doesn't matter who they throw out on the field. They win football games. Now, that used to be the Patriots when Tom Brady was still there, but he's not there
Yeah.
anymore. And I think for me, just a little bit, it was just how bad Cam looked. If Cam finishes out the game and just has a mediocre performance, then I'm like, okay, fine, maybe he can bounce back. But the fact that he was bad enough to get pulled tells me something that he may just not have it anymore. And Evan Lazar, who we've had on the show a couple of times, pointed out something pretty big about a week ago, and it was really picked up on this past week. He's only throwing to one side of the field. He's not looking at the left side of the field at all. He's only making throws to the right side of the field.
Wow. Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about that. It was more what I was noticing when he was throwing the ball. Everything's down. Like the rotation of every ball looks down. Like it just, he was doing the shin throws again, which was a Cam staple when he was just bad in Carolina. And I was big on the Cam train, especially after the Seattle game. But now we have to look at that in hindsight with more context. Seattle's defense is that bad. Like maybe that performance wasn't as great as we all thought. Maybe there have been more telltale signs. Maybe their weapons are still bad, and that's why Tom wanted to leave. I think it's a big collection of both. But I will say this, and you got to give him credit for it. Cam, after the game, owned it and put it on himself that he's just simply not playing good.
That's a lot of it mental, but I'm not going to point fingers at nobody else, being the fact that, I just didn't get the job done. And when you have a performance like that going against a team like this, what happened tonight will happen again. So like I said, it's distasteful, taste and feeling. But yeah, here moving forward, you just got to get on the road. You just got to get one. And, once that happens, we just got to start with tomorrow. Come back, review the film, and, don't put too much into, understanding, life's lessons.
117 total yards from Cam Newton. That includes 98 throwing the ball and on 5 carries for 19 yards. And that's definitely not good enough, especially when the thought of chosen boy on the other side, Jimmy Garoppolo, gave you chances. It wasn't like Jimmy was outstanding. He threw 2 picks, no touchdowns. Jeff Wilson ran for 3 of them, 112 on the ground, and then got hurt on his third one. They were steamrolling and getting whatever they wanted for San Francisco. In their defensive line, the Kinlaw pick, I know Joe Shasky, our boy from 95.7 The Game, was not high on what Kinlaw was doing. I think he's a scary individual on the inside and in the middle. But a team that was in the Super Bowl a year ago, their offensive line is really good. And maybe Kyle Shanahan just has that Mike Shanahan magic potion with running backs or something. Jermichael Hasty. Who? Like even Jeff Wilson Jr. from, maybe you were more of a, it's the Mean Green is North Texas, right? Maybe you were more of a North Texas guy than I was. I sure didn't know who Jeff Wilson Jr. was coming in. Then he runs for 3 touchdowns on the Patriots. It's a scary thought. They're still playing. Deebo Samuel's going to be out for 2 weeks. We're going to know a lot more about him. Andrew Carlson knows about winning money, and he tells you next.
presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Bill Schmidt.
It's time to find out how much money Andrew Carlson won everybody today and this weekend. Right here on SportsMap all night. SportsMap Radio Network. You're listening coast to coast on our fine local affiliates across the country, as well as the SportsMap Radio app. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you a little bit more about the SportsMap Radio app because unlike other, how do I say this, industry competitors, certain make you pay for their podcasting and their networks that bring you all the content you love about the National Football League, about NCAA football, about it all. And for us here at SportsMap Radio, we laugh at those folks. We want you to be here to enjoy all that is SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio family of programs. And us here on SportsMap all night, like Andrew Carlson has been doing pretty much for everybody the last couple of weeks, this man has just been handing out cash. It's like an ATM when you follow Andrew Carlson's 3 plays that pay. College game, maybe not so ever, but this man just went 3-0 in the NFL. I'm going to wait to pat you more on the back, Andrew, but why don't you tell us about how the college games went for you this weekend in the 3 plays that pay as we recap our weekend in investments?
So I was feeling pretty confident about these, especially after last week.
You should have.
Started off well. You know, Louisville -5 versus FSU was never in doubt. The Cardinals jumped out early and never really looked back. And things went downhill a little bit after that. Cincinnati at SMU, I'm going to get to that in a second, but Baylor +10 at Texas. I was feeling pretty good about this just because I was betting against my boy Tom Herman as a favorite, and usually when you do that, you end up in the green. Unfortunately, I've got some red over here, and that's because not that Baylor was really ever in the game. I think Texas was up by about 10-13 basically the entirety of the game, but Baylor had the ball twice when Texas was up by 13, once with 5 minutes left and once with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And I thought there was a decent shot I could get that backdoor cover, and it was not meant to be. The Bears couldn't get it done. A little unfortunate, but, you know, you live with those. The SMU and Cincinnati over 56, this is the one that really hurt. If you told me that Cincinnati was getting me 42 points before this game started, I said we're hitting the over 56, no problem. SMU's just got to get me 15. You just got to give me 17. Give me 2 touchdowns and a field goal, and we're set. I don't need much more than that out of the Pony Express. Unfortunately, they got me 13. They could not muster up more than a touchdown and a couple field goals, and for that, I went 1-2 in the college game, and I'm upset about it a little bit, Bill. I'm going to be honest, a little upset.
You hate to see that, and we were even talking about it. Shehan Jayaraja was on this past weekend. He was at that game, right? He was on Friday, and he said he was going to be at that game. Thought it was one of the biggest games that SMU had since the 80s, like you said, with the Pony Express. And then, however, I will say this. Now, the show pot doesn't fade much. It should have faded me the last 2 weeks. I went 1-11 last 2 weeks. The show pot did fade that, though, on the under.
Okay.
So just if you can take a little bit of confidence and just give yourself a little bit of a boost, right? Be a little bit optimistic. That can be a spot for some smiles there, right?
One of us wins, Bill. I'm happy.
Well, we both win. It's the show pot, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
That's the kind of stuff that we need. Stick-to-itiveness. Now, maybe the show pot should have faded me a lot the last couple of weeks. But, hey, we bounced back a little bit, not much in the college game. I mentioned a little bit earlier on in the program, but sweet mercy. Did you watch that Michigan-Minnesota game at all? Because Joe Milton, redshirt freshman quarterback at Michigan, the stats aren't eye-popping, but just watching him man that offense, the speed that Michigan played with, they actually looked like the 5-star program that everyone tells you they are each and every year. They beat the brakes off of PJ Fleck and the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I bought in a little bit too much over the offseason to the row the boat. I think it's one of the best trademarks in sports. I think PJ Fleck's actually a good football coach. A lot of people don't like him in the coaching community. Some people think that he's, all talk, whatever. People usually don't like guys that have immediate success. I think he's really fun and cool. And I think his team is much better than people give it credit for. However, it's in vogue to rip on Michigan. I did it last week. I ate every bit of my words. Joe Milton and that offense just steamrolled through. They scored almost every possession they had the ball. They put up 49 for crying out loud, and we're just all over Minnesota. So that +3 was bad. It was just not good. It was a donation. And same deal with Mike Stoops. Bought into the hype, thought they were coming off of a win on the road that they shouldn't have had, get a huge W, upset win, and then they lose to Mizzou badly by 2 touchdowns. Mizzou is not very good, but don't tell that to Ed Ogeron and the LSU Tigers. Same deal. Buying into the wrong hype over here in the college game. However, the good hype in the college game, Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes are really, really good. Justin Fields was as dominant as many college quarterbacks really as you can be in that performance. Nebraska was able to hang around with the Buckeyes at Ohio Stadium for about 20 minutes in that game. The better team won. The better team finished it off. And Ohio State is one of the top 3 teams in the country, bar none. Whatever Notre Dame puts up, they blew out Pitt this week. You go and see what that team looks like and how good Ohio State is, how much frontline talent, top-end talent they have. They're going to beat a lot of teams. They're going to be a lot of teams like that. Penn State game this weekend will be a lot more fun, but Ohio State dropping 27 was easy money. Andrew, pro guys, a little bit, not even a little bit, just like automatic. It's like automatic for you.
3-0 back-to-back weeks, Bill. Feeling a little good about it. I'm going to be honest.
Goodness gracious. You want to spell it out for everybody how you did it? Because the Green Bay Packers were a nice start. And maybe, as you said, a layup. But hey, somebody still got to front the money.
Look, I was screaming it for whoever was willing to listen.
Yeah, you were.
The Packers laying 3.5 going to Houston was the most ridiculous line, or one of the most ridiculous lines I had seen this season. There was no reason to expect this Texans defense to put up any sort of resistance against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Now, could you have expected Deshaun Watson and the Texans offense to do a little bit more? Probably. Enough to hang within 3.5 points? Absolutely not. And it played out just like I expected. Aaron Rodgers torched the Texans, was able to do whatever he wanted on the football field, and the Packers defense showed up to play. Deshaun Watson and the Texans didn't really do anything on offense until the game was pretty much over. And that 3.5 was never in doubt from basically the first 10 minutes of the game on. I'm pretty sure that you could have just done whatever you wanted with that ticket because it was cashing. And for the other 2 picks that hit, I had Chiefs at Broncos over 45. And we've talked about it a little bit, and I'm sure we're going to get onto it more later in the week. If the Chiefs are putting up 42 points and doing what they did with Mahomes going for like 200 or less yards, this team is going to be very, very, very tough to beat. And when I saw the line at 45, I know it's supposed to be snowy, and it was snowy in Denver. It was a cold atmosphere. But you give me a line with Patrick Mahomes where all the other team has to do is basically score 10 points, and you're telling me that we're hitting the over? I'm doing that every single time because we know this Chiefs team is putting up 30-plus every single game. And especially against a beat-up Broncos defense, I thought they were putting up at least 35. I knew I could get 10 to 15 easy from the Broncos the other way. The Chiefs damn near covered it themselves, putting up the 42. So that was an easy cash, never in doubt. And the final one, Bucks -4 at the Raiders. This one didn't play out quite how I expected because the Raiders got a decent number of their offensive linemen back. But, man, Tom Brady and those Bucks, we've talked about it in the show already. Those guys are rolling. And this is MVP Tom Brady. He looks as good as he ever has. Some of the throws he made in that game looked like vintage Tom. And when I say vintage Tom, I'm talking MVP Tom from 4, 5, 6 years ago. And if they're playing at that level and they're adding Antonio Brown, man, I'm going to be having some overs to hit pretty soon.
Dude, they look that good. I mean, I don't know. I watch Tampa and I'm just in awe. Their defense, to me, is the biggest selling point on how good they can actually be, dude. listen to all the hype in the offseason. I was looking at the numbers saying, dude, they were in the mid-20s all over the place. But it's young, it's emerging, and it's fast. And you got a front four that includes Ndamukong Suh, Shaq Barrett, and JPP. You're going to win a lot of games. You're going to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Derek Carr had no chance. And you said MVP years of like 5-6 years ago with Tom. No doubt about it. And if he is playing at this level for the next 3 to 4 weeks, get your investments on Tom on the future to win the MVP early. Because if there's a storyline for somebody in a narrative to fit, how is it not Tom Brady winning the MVP? Like, I see the LeBron sell. That's why I thought he was actually going to win the MVP in the NBA, was because why do you not want the narrative? Tom winning the MVP is... Now, stay with me on this a little bit. It might even be better for the league than Russ winning the MVP. As much as there's a big push for Russ to win it and finally, maybe right that wrong, as some people think, Tom's going to get so much more push to win the MVP in the next couple of weeks. Just watch. All right, I'll get into this. The over 54.5, the Falcons and Lions. This is a vow, Andrew, that I'm going to make right now, and I'm going to need you to hold me to it for the rest of the 9 weeks of the NFL season, all right? Don't bet overs on two bad teams. Because for crying out loud, if you really thought that Matt Ryan and Matt Stafford could combine for almost 60, then, I need somebody to hit me in the head like those old V8 commercials. Could have had a V8. You could have bet the under. Also, could have bet the under, and we would have had a large teaser coming our way on the show pot twice. Andrew, it beat us twice on the teaser. Over 48.5 for crying out loud. That's all you needed. Here I needed 54. And if it wasn't thanks to Todd Gurley and TJ Hawkinson with their 2 touchdowns inside of the last 64 seconds, it would have even looked uglier and would have been even farther away from the truth than it really was. Far from an over a 54.5 with the Falcons and Lions. And also the aesthetics of that game. I'm a big jersey guy, a look good, feel good, play good guy, Andrew. What do you think of the Reds that the Falcons have? I thought they were off-putting.
I'm not a huge fan of their whole redesign, to be honest, but that's not a...
I think their black and white jerseys are cool. Their Reds, maybe it's their turf. Like, it just looked weird on TV. I thought my TV was wrong, was bad. Like, the coloring was off. I went to the menu and tried to adjust the settings, and I was like, no, their turf just looks weird, and those jerseys are bad. Their lighting is also strange in that stadium. All right, I digress. I'm not an architect. Sports talk guy. I was telling you all week, I thought Carolina was going to win that game outright. And Teddy made the biggest mistake that he had all game in taking that sack late to push Joey Sly out of field goal range. And did he not take a run at that 65-yarder to tie it at 27? I mean, he put it 6-8 inches away. Now it's going to be like a fish story, right? Oh, he just missed it and it just almost nicked the upright. I mean, it was a foot away. It was a close kick, and it was right down the pipe. Carolina +7 against the New Orleans Saints, I felt like was easy money all week long, especially once they took Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders off the field for Drew Brees. That's fine. Carolina can hang with those teams. Carolina is better than most people think, and I think they're a pretty solid team this year. I don't know, playoff team. They have a solid foundation. And the over of Arizona, Seattle was like stealing money. It was like taking candy from a baby. And you can take candy from little kids this next weekend because it's Halloween, and that's what you do on Halloween. You don't give out candy. You take candy. Guys, this Halloween night, it's like taking candy when you get to watch one of the best pay-per-views that there's going to be. Davis versus Santa Cruz on October 31st. The two best boxers in the world go head-to-head in the fight of the year. Don't miss Tank Davis as he takes on Leo Santa Cruz live on pay-per-view October 31st via Showtime pay-per-view. Go to Showtime right now and order this on your smart TV as well as connected devices. Order at showtime.com. Contact your local pay-per-view provider as well. A stacked card at the 135-pound title as they unify it and find an undisputed champion between Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz on Halloween night on Showtime pay-per-view. We're back after this on SportsMap All Night. Bill Schmidt and Andrew Carlson on on SportsMap Radio.
O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Here's Bill Schmidt.
We're live inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. It is SportsMap all night, 24-10. The LA Rams beat up on the Bears tonight at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. They moved to 5-2. And the NFC West just continues to be the most dominant division in all of football. Seattle at 5-1. They take their first loss last night. Their defense needs to get better. There's no way they can win the Super Bowl. The LA Rams look like maybe one of the teams that is just going to creep up on somebody. I think they can win a playoff game. I still think the 49ers might be the best team in that division. 4-3. What they just did is to New England. You just can't take over. They are as powerful, I think, as anybody. Their offensive line is so good. And Game 6 of the World Series tomorrow night, we'll be talking about it right here on SportsMap Radio. This hour of the program presented by Rocket Mortgage. When you need certainty in the home buying process with a loan that fits your life, Rocket can. And we'll be back in 21 hours right here on SportsMap Radio. Thanks to Maury Brown for joining us, as well as Jordan DiMaggi. We're back tomorrow at 10 for AC. I'm Bill. Peace.